Hey, welcome back. 540-0580. We're talking with Paul Chase. We got him back here on the line. Paul, you there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here. I was on I-95 and it's a long dead spell, but I found a spot that's got signal, so I'm staying put.
All right, good. That's good. I wondered what happened to you there. All right. You were talking with Rob, and I'm going to put him back on in a minute. But in the meantime, we were talking with Gary. Can you hear me, Gary?
Yeah, I'm here, Carl.
Okay. Basically, in a nutshell, Gary's at a point where he might get sheriff sailed, he might get foreclosed on, and otherwise he's trying to move out of the area and get out of his property. If Gary wants to get together with you, Paul, and talk with you, what phone number could he get you at?
Best number to reach me is at the office. Give me a call at 735-8400.
What's that, 735-8400?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get that, Gary?
Yep, got that, Carl. Thanks.
All right. Talk with Paul. I think he'll be able to help you. All right, brother?
All right. Thanks for taking the call.
All right, no problem. And, Rob, you were disconnected when we lost Paul there.
Yes, I was, Carl. And I believe that you had indicated to me that second mortgage holder really didn't have any legal recourse since I've been discharged of that debt.
Paul and I just did this in another case where there's a bankruptcy, and I wrote the two lenders, and they were like, sell it, get rid of it. Right. So it should be a pretty straightforward procedure. Paul, I think Rob should probably talk with you as well off the air, because he can give you a little more detail, right?
Yeah, that would be. We could certainly do that. Now, if that property's already listed, I really can't interfere with that because I have to respect his listing agreement that he's got. But I can give him some general advice. I'd be happy to do that. Gotcha.
And then if his listing agreement expires, then he can come talk to you.
Certainly.
Right. One last question on that property, Carl. It is still deeded in my name. Okay.
Right. That's correct.
And since it's still deeded in my name, even though I've been discharged of that mortgage amount debt with both lenders, would be your suggestion that I still maintain, which I have been up to this point, the homeowner's insurance on the property?
Yes.
Okay.
Because theoretically, you could end up in a position where you have a duty to. You've told the bankruptcy court you're going to surrender that asset to them, and you should be keeping it maintained and safe until you do that.
Okay, it was broken into recently. I guess it was about a couple months back. The first time, the second time was recent, only because I had moved the other half of my things out of there. But they broke in the rear door and they took the copper piping out of the place.
Yeah, that's not good.
And I had asked the current realtor to ask the lender if they would at least help me out on the initial $1,000 deductible, but they wanted no part of that. So I never pursued filing a claim on that. Now, would they have a right to come back with me on that to try to say, well, you're not leaving us the property in original condition?
No, not at this point. Not with the bankruptcy interceding in there now.
Okay.
All right. So, Rob, the number, Paul, what's your number again, just so Rob has in case his listing agreement expires?
That's 717-735-8400.
All right. Take care, Rob.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Paul, I guess now is a good time to mention, Caldwell Banker, where you work, and I kind of got together to do some work on short sales. And we've got a pretty good system put together where, and I heard him saying, I had my realtor contact the lender to talk about things. And that's a big area where Caldwell, I think, has kind of taken the lead, creating a streamlined system to allow the realtors to talk with the lenders in a way that a lot of other agencies don't seem to have put together yet.
Yeah, we do. We've recently hired a short sale negotiator, and that is her primary function, and she is under the direction of a very well-known attorney here in Central PA. I
think I know me.
So, and what that does is that frees the realtor up to, instead of listening to bad elevator music on hold all day, that frees the realtor up to work with the client, get the information that's needed, and it just really streamlines the entire process.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting. I'm very excited about that program. I'm very excited about how it's been working. And I tell you what, so the reason I really, I like, obviously, I've really appreciated the work you've done with the clients on the short sales. And this just creates an even better environment to do it in. So I'm kind of excited. I hope if anybody else out there has short sale questions, mortgage questions, interest in this, while we've got Paul here, and we'll keep him a little bit longer. I know he's traveling, so we're not going to keep you all afternoon, Paul. But this is a good opportunity, folks. Call in 540-0580. And just so we're clear about this, we're talking about Coldwell Banker Select Professionals' footprint basically goes from Reading to Hanover to Camp Hill to Lancaster to Harrisburg to Hershey, Ephrata. So if you can hear this signal, Paul can help you. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that, too. You don't have to just be from downtown Lancaster if you want to talk about a short sale or think about it. In fact, the one we're just mentioning, I think, was down in, Fulton County that you're working on?
I was down in Franklin County, down by the state line. So I was thinking about this yesterday. Really, our footprint goes from about Reading to, because we're by next week we should have a Reading office open. So it goes about as far west as Highway 81.
Yeah. So it's kind of exciting, and of course you could go even a little farther west than that in terms of like Cumberland County with your Camp Hill office.
Oh, certainly. One of the things that we discovered is when it comes to the short sales and avoiding foreclosures is that divorce is a leading cause of foreclosure, simply because one party or the other fights hard to keep a house, and then within the first 2 years they find out that they really can't afford it and they had no business owning it in the first place. So what we're starting to do now is work with divorcing couples and not trying to talk them into any sale or anything, but what we're trying to do is educate them about what the true cost of keeping the house is so that we can protect their credit before it gets totally trashed. So if we can prevent even the foreclosure from even starting in the divorce phase, that'd be a really good thing.
It's interesting you mentioned that too, because there was a study done a while back. People always assume that people in bankruptcy are just deadbeat, people who got what they deserve, so to speak, and the studies actually don't bear that out. That we find out that most people were responsible borrowers, but the number two reasons, or the number one and two reason to get into a bankruptcy is to lose your job over something you can't control, or a divorce. So yeah, you guys are really onto something. Dave, you're on the air with Carl and Paul.
Yeah, well, actually, I have a short question and maybe one a little bit more involved. In a short sale, whatever the agreed price is on a short sale, is that what the buyer has to put up, and then everything else is dissolved?
In a short sale, what happens is an amount is put up that the buyer is willing to pay, and then it has to cover the closing costs, etc. And so sometimes the buyer, says, I'm going to pay $100,000 for the property plus X towards closing costs or whatever, but the bank basically has to sign off on everything because they're agreeing to take less money than they're owed. Is that a good way of saying it, Paul?
Correct.
And so
what the bank is doing is they're removing their lien on the property, which then allows the seller to convey the property to the buyer.
Free and clear.
Free and clear, that's right.
Yeah, okay. Now, the other question I have is my son bought an old property. He had it inspected by one of these inspection companies, and they found out they have something it's called a beam beetle.
Okay.
And it's chewing up in a place is virtually, I guess, going to collapse. And he went to talk to the people who inspected it, and the guy said, "What do you want me to do? I only had an hour to look at the property." And that was his excuse for not detecting it. And my inclination is that, he should get an attorney, and you guys would probably go around to all the exterminators in the area and say, "Hey, did you inspect this property for the owner, or do any work for the owner on this property, and he should be able to come back on the property owner and the inspector.
The short answer is it would depend on the contract he signed with the inspector. I've been involved in one of those litigation pieces before involving a bad home inspection, and a lot of times the contract is very specific that it limits their liability even based on bad performance or negligence, which a contract can do. However, if the seller knew about it and failed to disclose, that's always a potential issue. So, he should probably sit down and talk with an attorney. It may be a case that can go somewhere. It might not be. It's just going to depend on what you can prove, because when you're the plaintiff or the guy bringing the lawsuit, it's always your job to prove everything.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dave?
Okay, hey, just one remark. I'm going to ask him to come around and see you, and that's based on some other work you did for me, and I was tremendously satisfied with not only the work but the price, and you guys did a beautiful job for me.
Well, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Right.
All right, you take care. Let's see, we got somebody else on. Becky, you want to talk to Paul and me about short sales? Hi, Becky.
Oh, hi. Yes, I do. My daughter had put an offer in on it. The realtor had said, "Oh, a short sale is so sticky," but she put an offer in on a property that was short sale. And the realtor says the negotiator has not gotten back to her. So I'm wondering, what is the negotiator's role? I'm assuming they represent the third party, such as the bank. But if the property owner had said, yes, I'll accept that offer, but then the bank on a short sale or third party has to approve as well, why does it take so long?
The short answer to that is it really depends on who the lender is. But if the lender that holds the note is let's say a Wells Fargo or a Bank of America, they have upwards of 1,000 negotiators each, and each of those negotiators is getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 new files on their desk every day. So what takes so long in a short sale, quite frankly, is they are getting overwhelmed with volume right now. The banks just cannot keep up with the volume that they're getting.
I see.
So that's the delay. Basically, the bank, when they talk about now we have our negotiator on the realtor's side, and that's a program we've created so we can consolidate. And the idea being is that means we can put somebody who can really ride the bank's negotiators a lot harder than the typical realtor can. And we think that's what's giving us our advantage and our competitive advantage in helping with your short sales, Becky. I got to go to break, so I'm going to let you go. Paul, stay with us.
Okay, thank you.
Do.
All right, 540-0580. Hey, welcome back, 540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions on the air. If you don't know me, I'm an attorney here in the mid-state. We practice all over the place. We got offices in Lancaster, Carlisle, Harrisburg, where else? York, Chambersburg, wherever you need us. If you can hear this signal, odds are we're there. And I've got Paul Chase from Caldwell Banker Select Professionals. They've got a very similar footprint. In fact, we share some office space in Lancaster. Paul, we've been talking about the short sales. I got somebody asking now about a judicial sale. Jovan.
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
Good.
All right. I purchased the house at a judicial sale in June, and I'm waiting for the deed to come in.
Yeah.
But there are tenants currently in the house, and I'm curious to what the next step is for me to get the current tenants out. And I just don't want to, break any laws or, have them have anything to come back at me with.
You got to basically do an eviction.
Okay.
And so you would go and do a landlord-tenant eviction. The other way would be what we call an ejectment, which is where you go right to the court of common pleas as opposed to sidestepping the regular landlord-tenant, but really 6 of one, half dozen of another. In fact, Paul, we actually just did that. Didn't Eric in my office just do one of those for you?
Yeah, we did. I guess my question for you, Carl, is if the tenant has a lease, does that lease survive the judicial sale?
I don't think it does. I think that the change in ownership can probably trigger the ability to nullify that lease. But you know what? Off the top of my head, I'd have to double check myself on that one. But it seems to me that's one of the ways you could break a lease.
Okay, because I know if Joe sells his property to Bill, that the lease, when you buy the property, you buy the lease. And
you buy a lease with it, right? But a judicial sale theoretically clears the property of all clouds or restrictions. And so, in my mind, a lease would operate as a restriction or a cloud on the property that a judicial sale would clear. But if they are in compliance with the lease and you want to keep them, then you could just turn them into tenants.
Well, now the thing is, actually, I use the word tenant, but they're the people who own the house before the tax sale.
Oh, okay, yeah. Then they probably definitely can be whacked out. I don't doubt there's a lease at all.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now, I do have a question, more of an advice question. I'm a college student, so it's my first purchase. It was an investment property, and I'd like to get into the business of renting, but right now I'm thinking more towards the line of selling, just because it'd be easier to maintain. What would your advice be in something like that?
Well, that's not legal advice, so I'll stay away from it. But basically, you can make money as a landlord, but it's a lot more work than people think. Some of the people think they're just going to go buy a rental and make some money, and it turns out to be a lot of headaches. On the other hand, there's other people who've made millions and millions in the rental industry. So you kind of got to figure that out, and it probably has a lot to do with where the property is located, what the realistic rental returns are versus what you'd have to invest in it, to make it habitable, etc. And I know, Paul, you guys even have a rental management unit now, right? So you could help if he called someone like you could refer him to somebody who could help him manage it as a rental.
Right. What I usually advise people who are considering buying rentals is you definitely want to look at finding a really good professional property manager. Now, it'll cost you anywhere from 7 to maybe 10% of the monthly rent. But if you try to manage it yourself, what you've actually done is you bought yourself a full-time job, and that's not what you got into real estate for.
Okay. So like you said, it's just pretty simple eviction process to get the people out of the house.
Yep.
It's time-consuming, but Eric was very beneficial to one of my clients because he wrote a very motivating letter advising them of the advantages to surrender the property before the sheriff came and physically removed them, and that was all it took.
Okay, so you're saying the best way to get in contact with them would be to just write a well-written letter, not being polite, but at the same time pushing them a little to say we'd rather not take legal action.
No, I would advise you to contact Carl's office and hire an attorney to write that letter.
Okay.
All right, guys.
All right, thank you very much for your help.
All right, take care.
Yep.
Let's see who else we got here. Paul, you want to hang with me till the break here?
Sure.
Okay. By the way, people...
Traffic hasn't started to break up yet, so I'm fine right where I'm at.
Good. Where do... again, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, I'm just going to keep making you repeat that number because I know somebody just called and wanted us to repeat it. So,
okay. Telephone number for the office is 735-1145. Oh, I'm sorry, 735-8400.
Okay. What is it? 735-8400.
735-8400.
Paul, we got to keep Paul straight on phone numbers. That's a nice inside joke we got going here today. Don, you're on with Paul and Carl.
Yeah. I have a question. My sister just recently passed away here, as a matter of fact, on Friday.
Oh, God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, she was in the hospital for 2 really bad health and had a lot of health issues, no quality of life, and there wasn't much they could do. So anyhow, she passed on. And my question is, her husband passed on a year and a half ago, and they had no children or anything, and she never got around to making a will. So I'm the oldest sibling. It looks like I'm looking for some direction though. Where do I go? You know, how do I handle this? Because she was kind of a private and secretive individual. She didn't reveal much, and
right.
So there's a lot of things, a lot of questions that I won't be able to answer.
Don, did you find a will yet or no?
No.
Okay.
I'm trying to, go through all the paperwork and stuff that she had crammed around here and there, but she had mentioned about a week before she ended up going in the hospital that she still hadn't got around to making a will. So that's why I'm almost 100% positive that she does not have a will.
Okay.
The only thing she had was a living will, but that's
the good news is
you're there now.
The good news is if you kind of know that she probably didn't have a will and you do a diligent search and don't find one, it's pretty simple to go from there. We follow what's called the laws of intestacy.
Okay.
What I probably want. What county are you in?
Cumberland.
You want to. I probably want to get you in to talk to Steve Snyder in my office.
Okay.
He'll walk you through everything. And I guess I always tell people this: don't beat your head against the wall too hard right now.
Right.
What I'd want you to do is call in Monday morning first thing. The number's 241-6070.
241-6070.
You're going to ask for Steve Snyder.
Okay.
And let him know, you talked to me on the radio. We got an estate here. He just did this for a guy who was up from Florida last week who had a relative die. And they'll walk you through everything you need to do,
right,
and help you do everything. And at the end of the day, you shouldn't have too much you have to think about, and just take care of family at this point.
Right, absolutely.
And so that's what we're going to help you do, okay?
Okay, I won't hold you up any longer.
All right,
Let you get the next caller. Thank you, and God bless you.
All right, see you Monday.
All righty.
540-0580. We'll see you after the break. Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions, 540-0580. I let Paul go because I know he needed to travel. If you need to get hold of Paul Chase, you can look him up on my Facebook page. By the way, I started a Sunday hunting Facebook. We bring Sunday hunting to Pennsylvania Facebook group. So if you get a chance, join that as well if you're in favor of Sunday hunting like I am. It's about time to get rid of that arcane law and bring back Sunday hunting here to Pennsylvania. Oh, what else do I know? Well, I'm going to be in trial this week, so if you get a chance, you want to stop by the Cumberland County Courthouse, you can see us in action. I think Vinny's up on the list, and so am I. Sometimes these things fall through, but I think I'm definitely going to trial if I had to guess. Jane, let's see. Why is this not working here? Why is my phone not working? I don't know what's going on with my phone here. I can't get my phone to work, Shane. It won't do anything. I don't know. Can't seem to get the phone to work. Do we know what's wrong with this phone? No, we don't know what's wrong with this phone. Let me see here. Jane.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Carl. How you doing?
Good. What's going on?
Hey, one, I want to thank you for meeting with me. Some time ago, I went to see you at your Carl office, and you met with me. You're a very busy man, but I want to thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Being so professional. My question is regarding the right-to-know law.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
You know what? I'm a little bit familiar with it. Eric in my office is a lot more experienced with it, but I might be able to field the question. But if I can't, we'll defer it. We'll defer it.
Okay. Not recently, but sometime back, a couple of months, I requested for some records from the police. I was the person that actually made the complaint.
Right.
And I went to the police to get all the records regarding the situations. And I was turned down because they stated that they were considered criminal.
Okay.
And they were not going to release the records. So I went a little further and I called the DJ office. After some running around, they told me that, one, it couldn't be criminal because anything criminal would go through them.
Right.
And it never got to them. So nothing was done. And that was my, I really thought that the police were holding back on doing anything because they have some type of ties with the people with the problems that I've been having. But this officer, this police station, they are the ones that are telling you, no, we're not going to give you none of this information, even though I'm the one that filed the information. And in addition to that, They do not take a statement. When you go in to make a statement, they do not sit there and write the statement as you're telling them what happened. They do this afterwards. So it's according to what they want to remember to put down on the paper.
Right.
And I've had some experiences where I've gotten some other things, paperwork that I've requested for, and the officers have written their own version. Not what I was told at the precinct. So I, of course, took it upon myself to record my interactions so like that I could have proof, because, of course, everybody's feared to death of these police officers retaliating against them. So they won't stand up and do their job. So I recorded most. And pretty much I don't really care if I send consequences, because I recorded, because I felt my life was in danger and I needed to record this interaction. So I did, and I have that on the side. But I'm trying to go and request these records that I personally feel that I should be entitled to, because I'm involved in that. I was the one who actually went and made the complaint.
And I don't know how that, and I don't know if that makes a difference in the right to know law. I do know that the right to know law does partially shield criminal and non-criminal investigative records. So if no charges are ever filed,
right,
then they do have some shielding. They become not public documents. But there may be other ways to get those, which would involve, if you had a valid way to get a lawsuit up and running, sometimes you can get things that you couldn't get under the right to know law through discovery in a lawsuit, for instance. So.
Okay.
But I think they're probably correct that they don't have to provide them. The flip side is a lot of agencies just deny, and then you have to appeal it to, if you give them a request and then they deny it, you can appeal it to the right to know office.
Okay, let's say that information is important due to, my son was murdered. I believe it was a setup. And the people involved in the complaints that was happening before he was murdered, unfortunately the police is involved in covering up for these people.
And so that's where maybe if you can get an angle to get into court, you might be able to get around it. But the long short of it is, I would start with the formal written right to know request, which you probably already did.
I did.
It gets denied, and then you appeal it.
Yeah, what happened was I went to the representative because I went through the procedure. I even called the Right to Know agency. They sent me the legal guidelines regarding the release of records, and I fell into the guidelines that, yes, those records can be released. So according to the law, where I got from this agency, they're supposed to notify me in writing the reason why it's not being released. And they did not do that. They're supposed to provide you with information of what's your next step when that record, you're being denied release of the records. They did not do that. Of course, they were arrogant and they could do whatever they want as they think. So I went to the agency, back to the agency. They sent me to the DA's office. I put in a paperwork for the DA stating that was the next step, stating why are they being denied. The DA office sent me a letter stating that whatever the police says, that's what it is, and the records won't be. That's not according to law. They're not going through the law. They're going through by whatever they want to do to whichever individual they want to do it to.
So I can tell you this, Jane. I'm gonna let you go and take the next caller. But the long and short of it is, you can eventually get judicial review after you've gone through the administrative agency. But I'm not an expert in the right to know law. I know there's other lawyers out there that know a lot more about it than I. But the agency will at least help you walk through the procedure. All right? I think I lost her. Okay, who's next here? George.
Yes, I listen to you as often as I can when you're on the radio. You're a good man.
Oh, thank you very much.
I don't know if I ever heard this discussed. Any problems involving disputes or things with electric utilities or anything like that? Do you ever get involved in anything like that?
I generally don't. I mean, the big, if you're talking about fights between the electrical utilities, et cetera, that's kind of like the PUC law, Public Utilities Commission law, and other areas that are fairly specialized. And so generally what I call general practice firms, we don't get involved in that sort of thing.
So who would I contact if I wanted to resolve something other than keep this other than my electric supplier or my generation supplier. I chose a generation supplier, and they're really the ones I have the controversy.
I'd go first to the Public Utilities Commission and work backwards from there.
What do you mean by work backwards?
I mean, I'd go to them and see where they think, whether they have anybody that can help you there directly. Sometimes the administrative agencies themselves who regulate these areas have the most power, and they already have a streamlined process for opening an inquiry.
Okay.
All right?
Right, thank you.
All right, my friend. Let's see. Who else have I got here? Do I have control of this thing yet, Shane? You have control of it. What? Okay. I don't know what's going on here. All right, Jeff, you're next.
Hi, Carl. How are you?
Good. What's going on, brother?
I enjoy your show. Thanks a lot for taking my call.
Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm a landlord, and I got a quick question. I have a year lease signed by a gentleman who transferred into the area with proposals of a new job. He signed the lease, has moved in, then went on vacation. Now he's notified me and asked me if I could put the apartment back on the market because his job has been turned down by the Human Resource Department for some violation that they found afterwards. My question is how long, is he committed to this lease for a year, or how long do
I'd have to see the exact language in the lease, but the general answer is yes. The long answer is you still have a duty to try to cover, so if he were to just move out, you still have to try to re-rent your apartment, and then he owe you the difference as a general rule. I usually advise people in cases like this is to work out something along the lines of, what can we do to make this work for both of us? So you've got to stay here or you got to keep paying, but why don't you, I'll put it back on the market and you keep it clean and you help me re-rent it or you help look for people. Right. And we'll go from there.
That's kind of what I did. I've already listed it again, but I wanted to make sure that he was responsible for still paying until I rent it again.
He is, although, like I said, I'd have to read your lease to make sure it says what we think it says. Did you write that yourself, or did you have somebody prepare it?
It was prepared.
Okay. So it's probably doing its job.
Okay. Can I ask you another quick question?
Well, sure.
Another tenant, long-term tenants, are moving out. They had a guest come and stay with them.
Okay.
If they move out and the guest does not leave, what recourse do I have? Or are they responsible if they haven't actually moved out yet if their guest is still there?
The short answer is you can argue that they didn't vacate the apartment. I think the answer is you've got to evict the guest because they now become like a squatter.
Right.
Or a holdover tenant. To the extent they let them in, you might be able to make a claim against them and drag them back in as well if the guest doesn't continue to pay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Carl. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. I love the travails of a landlord.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. 540-0580. I'll see you after the break. (540-0580). That's the talk line number. Welcome back. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. I was making a little garage band with my Rockstar can, and Shane seems to think that I have some musical talent, which I don't. And by the way, when the phones went screwy, RJ called in and straightened us right out. So thank you for listening, RJ. I appreciate that. It's good to know that you're always checking up on me in case I say something that's going to offend the sensibilities of the Clear Channel establishment. But I'm very careful not to. I promise, I swear. And when I do, it's only accidental. 540-0580. The opinions of this host, of course, are just the opinions of this host and not WHP 580. Lancer, you're on the air. Lancer.
Yes.
What's
up?
How
you doing today?
I'm doing good.
All right, here's my situation. Husband and wife, they were married for 20-plus years.
Okay.
And then they sell their first home.
Okay.
After they sell it, the husband buys a new home, and his name is on the mortgage.
Okay.
Wife buys a new home. Her name is on the mortgage.
They're still married at this time.
Still married. 2 years transpire. The husband passes away, and there is no will.
Right.
The question is the wife liable for the debt of the husband's mortgage? That's part A. Part B is if the wife wants to assume the mortgage, how does she get that transferred, get the deed transferred to her name?
Okay, so the house that the husband owned, did they own that house together?
The first one or the second one?
Well, the one that well, let me ask. I guess I'll ask it this way: do they both own both houses, or one own each house, or
one? The wife owns her home. The husband owned his home.
Okay. Well, the short answer is they're still married and there's no will, or even if there was a will, arguably. But if there's no will, the house becomes hers, subject to the mortgage that's on it. Since she wasn't on the deed, an estate still has to be opened up in order to transfer that property. The problem is the mortgage has to be satisfied, so she'll either have to refinance it or convince the bank to allow her to assume the mortgage if it's assumable, or sell the house and take the difference.
Okay.
Straight line estate. Yep.
Okay. In today's realty market, do most of the banks let the people assume the mortgage?
Well, they're going to want her. No, I mean the short answer is most mortgages are not have non-assumation clause. Would that be the right way to say that? They're not assumable. They have a clause in them that say you cannot assume. Most mortgages do.
Okay.
Unless it's a Veterans Administration, which is a clear exception. Any other veteran can assume them, and they do that so that there has to be a refi every time you want to change who's on it. And that way, it's going to be based on the current credit lending, and it's getting close to August 2nd, so I have no idea what the credit markets are going to look like here shortly. But long and short of it is the estate, once opened up, could continue to pay on it as well, and then the estate eventually would transfer it. So the bank's going to be there's ways to tame the bank either way.
Okay. All right, so I need to talk to an attorney to find out how to tame the bank.
Yeah, and you need to open an estate and get letters and the whole 9 yards and a tax return, even though the interest rate's going to be 0%.
All right.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, brother.
Bye.
540-0580. Marty. Hi, Marty.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Carl. And yes, we do appreciate your opinion. So I thank you for taking this.
Oh, thank you.
Mine is a somewhat similar question. The mortgage, when a person dies, is it in Pennsylvania, and I don't know about other states, but if my husband and I would put both of our sons on our mortgage, is that a way to avoid that second tax? I mean, we're already taxed as much as it is, but then when you die and you get taxed again.
Yeah, you mean add them to your deed, basically.
Huh?
You mean add them to the deed,
yeah,
so
that's
that
what I meant. Add them to the deed
as survivors. Yeah, that you can do that. You can add them, and that can help avoid by causing the property to move outside the estate. And you can do that tax free from transfer tax because they're your kids.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And you can do that. You have to maybe file a gift tax return with the federal government, but it's going to be probably below the $5 million ceiling there. So you're okay there. Your biggest issue, though, is it does create complications because let's just say down the road you go, well, Dad and I decided to move, and the kids look at you and go, well, we ain't signing any paperwork.
Oh, yeah.
So,
that's a possibility, but I don't. Yeah.
Well, I understand, but listen, I've got files filled with them that look like this. Like, I put my son on the deed, and now he won't agree to this, or he won't agree to that, or. At
the time we get them to sign the deed, can we also get them to sign the paper that if we ever decide we want to move, that they would agree to sign the deed?
You certainly could create a contract along those lines. Yep.
Okay.
You still have to fight to enforce it, and that's just a trust issue. But I just say, I mean, the downside to it is you now got 4 cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, but you do avoid all, like when we go, then they don't have all that tax to pay either.
Yeah, although let's be real careful, and I just want to throw this out there to people, which is the sooner you do it, the better, because it can get set aside in a nursing home type situation where there's a Medicare lien, et cetera. So you want to do it sooner rather than later if it's an estate preservation issue. There's also other ways it can be done that are sometimes even more clever, but might necessarily create additional expenses. Therefore, they're usually not something that those of us who are stuck in the middle class like me can afford to use. And the other thing is, I just always want you to remember that putting joint accounts together can also create other weird consequences. So we've had people, add themselves to their mother's account, but then they add their mother to their account, and then their mother dies, and they wonder why they're paying estate tax on the account that they added their mother to. But half of that joint survivor account becomes taxable under the law if it's more than a year old, and I think the whole thing does if it's less than a year old. So you just have to be careful that when you do this stuff, you do it right. But just adding kids to the deed isn't going to create an additional tax consequence. It'll actually prevent it. But I have seen people, when they're moving accounts around, actually accidentally create tax consequences that wouldn't have been there.
Wow, well, that's good to hear. I mean, good to hear some of these precautions. Are other states similar? Like if my mom's in Florida?
Every state's different. Okay. Consult an attorney in the state where you need to know the consequences.
Okay.
And I say that in all seriousness because there's no rhyme or reason to it. And there's no requirement. It's 50 little countries.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, yep, sure.
Have a great weekend. Don't melt.
Okay, you too, I know.
All right. Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, Carl, my sister passed away a few months ago. There was no will taken to probate or anything.
Okay.
Everybody just walked away from the estate because they were afraid there was too much debt in it.
Uh-huh.
The house is fire damaged. All she has is the property. And the attorneys for the bank that took over the property are looking for an administrator, a family member, as an administrator. And I was wondering if it's worth my time to do that, or can anybody be held liable for her debt?
The administrator does not become personally liable. I would tell him you'd be happy to do it, but you want a good fee. And if you're not interested in doing it, we serve sometimes as third-party administrators in cases like that.
As far as there shouldn't be a lot of legwork or time off of work for me to be involved with it because she really didn't have anything except outstanding bills.
If this bank wants you to do it, okay?
Yeah.
You're going to look at them and you're going to say, here's how it works, buddy. If I put my name on this, you're doing all the work. I'm just going to be a signature.
Okay.
And if they don't want to do it that way, then tell them to go figure it out themselves because they don't need a family member as a third. They can use another third party for administrator.
Yeah, they said if nobody steps forward, they'll just get somebody from the bank to do it. But her situation was handled so badly that I would like to be a part of cleaning things up.
Right. And the other answer is you don't necessarily the bank doesn't necessarily have to open the estate either. You could open the estate with someone like me, and then if there was something to be salvaged, we could figure it out. But if there isn't, we close it out and pay down our debts, and everybody lives happily ever after.
Okay, because really there's nothing left. Like I said, there's fire and water damage in the house. All it is her property.
And the bank just wants to protect their asset.
Okay.
But you want to make sure you're compensated for your time as well.
What's fair compensation for something like that?
Tell the bank whatever they get paid, you should get paid. Whatever their lawyers are going to get paid, you should get paid.
Okay. Well, okay.
All right?
All right. Well, thanks, Carl.
A couple $1,000 anyhow.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, boy. I guess we're running out of time here. Brian.
Yes.
You're on the air.
Thank you. You and Bob Durgan kill me. Do you know the difference between a 0 and an O?
No.
One's a number and the other one, it's a letter.
All right, brother. You got me there.
I swear I listen to you guys religiously, and
I appreciate.
Professor must be turning over in her grave.
I appreciate it, brother. Oh, God. All right, he got me. All right, well, there you go. I will be back next week, as you know, 2 hours. And in the meantime, if you need a lawyer, just look us up at RomingerLaw.com or weekendappointment.com. We serve you around the mid-state.